Have you ever wondered why you get stuck in the same patterns over and over again, unable to accomplish your goals? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, this is Jill from the Northwoods, talking about how to make your life better one small step at a time. You think about it sometimes. Sometimes you have a really good idea, a plan that you're genuinely excited about, and you've done absolutely nothing about it. And it's not because you're lazy, but maybe it's because you just couldn't figure exactly how to start. And the longer you waited to figure it out, the bigger the whole thing got in your head, and you just gave up on it. Or even you flip it around. If you've ever thrown yourself full force into a project, fully committed to it, gave it everything you had, and sometimes the whole thing just didn't turn out the way you expected. Yeah, me too, on both those counts. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is why that happens and what is actually going to get you unstuck out of that pattern. How can we move through this differently so that we can actually get through the thing that we're trying to do? Most of us have never been taught about this piece, but we're going to talk about iteration. And this is a word I don't really like, but it is essentially how I built my whole life, so I have to say it. But I'm going to make the case that maybe a single practical skill you can build will help you get the things that you want the most. Oh, this show really is about trying to change your life. Real things for real people with real constraints, and not some sort of a hustle culture, in not perfect systems, but just trying to move forward one small step at a time. What is iteration, and what does it actually mean? And I wanted to explain it clearly because a lot of places use the word iteration. When I worked at a software company, we talked about software iteration. It's one of those words that sounds sort of, I don't know, either more technical or more buzzworthy sound, but it actually has a really good small a definition of it that can make your life better. Essentially, what iteration means is trying something small, getting feedback, adjusting, and then doing it again. That is it. Like, it's a loop of constant progress, not a straight line. And most of us, I think, we're taught to talk about our projects in lines. You start here, you go to the next step, and then you finish, and then you're done. And most of life does not work that way. And it doesn't mean if it doesn't work that way that something went wrong. Either, the plan was bad or you were bad at following it, and either way you feel like a failure. And none of that is true. Iteration rejects that concept entirely. The iterative mindset is first that it isn't supposed to be the final answer. It was never meant to be the final answer. It's supposed to give you information. The goal of the attempt is not success. The goal is so that you actually learn something that you didn't know before. You got closer to the progress. And that is how actually most real progress happens. Scientists do it that way. Designers do it that way. Athletes do it that way. Software teams, like I said, do this obsessively. And somewhere along the way, we decided that regular people have to make decisions in one step. I'm going to decide what to do. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to finish it and get it right the first time. And if I can't commit to it that way, don't even bother. And that's where we run into trouble. It is essentially an all or nothing trap. And the reason I call it an all or nothing trap is it's one of the most common reasons people stay stuck. You decide that you want to change something. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your career or a relationship pattern that you're in, or you're trying to create a positive habit. So instead of just starting something small, you wait a bit, you research, you read some books about it, you plan. This was what I call my entire 20s, essentially. And you try to think of the best possible version of a thing, and then you wait until you're ready. Maybe New Year's Day. Well, maybe not New Year's Day. Maybe the day after New Year's Day. And then when you're ready, you're not ready. And so you keep waiting for you're ready, and you keep waiting, and you keep waiting, and you're never ready. Or the other side of the trap is you don't wait at all. You go all in, total effort. You're going to do this. You're going to work harder. You're going to have more willpower, and you're going to have a better mindset. And you're just going to power through this thing. Big jumps, giant leaps, and you're just going to use sheer force of nature to get there. Then the whole thing collapses. And you just don't stop doing that thing. You end up stop believing that it's even possible for you to do that thing, right? We go big with the diet. I'm going to do the diet. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to exercise 100% of the time, and I'm going to lose that weight once and for all. And when it doesn't happen, we're thinking, yeah, I'm probably never going to lose weight. It's these all or nothing patterns. And what they all have in common is they treat your first attempt as your only shot. Like you don't get to adjust. The outcome is now fixed. It was always going to be a failure. And what iteration says is, no, that's not true. You have a lot of shots. Every attempt is data. You don't have to get it right. You just have to get started and now pay attention to what happened. Small experiments really work better. So we're going to talk about why that is. And you don't have to take my word for it. I just want, to make it sensible for you. Is first of all, there's a lower risk. A small experiment doesn't cost much. If you try something for 7 days and it didn't work out, what did you lose? A week, maybe a little bit of effort. That's something quite different than deciding you're going to start your business, quit your job, overhaul your entire diet, commit to a major life change, move across the entire side of the world, take months to get this to work, and it goes sideways. It's emotionally different. The difference is that a failed attempt in a small experiment is a lesson. A failed all-in attempt can feel like a referendum on your entire character and your life, and it doesn't hit you the same way. Second, real data beats overthinking. This is something that I believe pretty firmly, is that you can't think your way into a right answer when the answer requires a life experience. You can research a career for months. You can read every book about habit formation. You can read every cookbook about healthy living. And the one thing that is actually true for you is living it on the inside, even if just briefly. The information that you get from just doing something different just for a week is more important than the information that you get from real research oftentimes. The small experiment gets you some real life information for you, and you learn information even faster. And faster means you're not stuck in your head for 6 months, that when you could have tried something for just 1 week. The third thing is that each loop builds skills and confidence. The one thing I find really important in this is that confidence doesn't come from being thoughtful about something or thinking about something a lot or even reading a lot of books about it. I tried to read confidence by just reading a ton of books. If I read a ton of books, I will be great at life, and that will give me confidence. Instead, confidence comes from having done something before, even if it was imperfect, a smaller version of it. Every iteration you complete, even if the experiment didn't work by some external measure, it taught you something, and it gives you proof of concept. You tried it, you'll adjust it, and you won't fall apart. That's the important part, and that's the thing that matters the most. Then the fourth reason that this works better is that small improvements compound. If you improve something by just 1%, through each iteration, those gains don't add up linearly, they compound. This is what James Clear talked about in his book. The 10th version of something is not 10 times better than the first. It is dramatically better than the first because you are improving everything that you learned in the first attempt, and it is a skyrocketing effect. This is true of habits, of creative work, of almost anything that you do and apply to it. And then if you look at this and why it actually works, let me give you some concrete examples in different areas of life about why this principle is portable to different things. So let's look at it with career. You are wondering if you're in the right field and maybe that there's something tugging at you. And you get this thought of all or nothing. I'm going to quit and start over. Or I'm just going to stay put and, we'll just hopefully it'll get better. But the iterative move is that you will design micro experiments. Maybe you'll spend 2 weeks doing something that tests whether you actually like another path. The example I always liked is I knew someone who wanted to start his own restaurant, and he never would take the leap. And I thought, why don't you just get a part-time job at a restaurant and you'll see if you actually even like it. Maybe something that's a really great hobby because he was a fantastic chef would be a good life choice for him. but don't quit your job until you know that that's what you want to do. So could you just spend a couple of weeks or a couple of months, maybe during a busy season like Christmas, where everyone's always needing work, and just try it for a little bit and see if you actually like it. Test out to see if that other path looks good for you. Shadow someone who actually does that. Take a course in that. Do a freelance project. I was talking to someone who wanted to be an artist of some kind, and I said, the best way that you can find out whether or not you're going to like this is go volunteer. He's a photographer. Go volunteer for a nonprofit organization who's looking for a photographer for one of their big events. They probably want someone to take nice pictures of the donors, of the boosters, of the people who are being helped by this nonprofit, and they would give you a chance to be a freelance photographer. That way, you're not really committing a whole life to it. You're getting a single data point. It'll tell you something about that career more than just researching the career online could ever tell you. Or if you think about health habits, maybe you don't need to overhaul your entire diet in January. You just need to make one small experimental step. You add one vegetable serving a day for 10 days. It's not going to fix everything, but it's a step in the right direction, and you've learned something. I actually took the small step of getting a CSA. Those are where you're getting farm produce delivered or to your house, or you pick up it somewhere once every 2 weeks, I think it was. It was a cannonball of vegetables coming my way. But you know what? I promised myself that I would try everything once. And at one point, nettles came. And nettles are like weeds you get in the backyard. And I thought, what in the world does someone do with a nettle? But I promised myself I would try everything once. It was just an experiment for me to try a lot of different vegetables I've never tried before. And I still eat many of those vegetables today. And then you can just sort of learn how you can build on that new habit. If you learn how your body responds to a particular kind of exercise or a particular kind of additional vegetable, you learn what the good points are. You learn where there's some friction there. For me, the friction with vegetables is getting fresh vegetables and having them spoil before I get a chance to eat them. So I work some ways around that too. If we think about relationships, people always don't think of iteratively when they're thinking about relationships, but it actually works quite well. There's a dynamic in one of your relationships that you want to change. So instead of sitting down and having one of these major conversations and hoping it transforms everything, okay, I'd like to talk to you about your anger problems. And, there's a lot of pressure right there when you have those types of conversations. And what if you just tested like a small shift? Try opening a question up sometime instead of offering advice. Ask a question. I notice you get angry a lot of times. Why do you think that is? Is it something I'm doing that sets off? And just see how that other person responds. How does it feel then to you when that person did respond? That's real information. And you didn't risk the relationship. You just asked a question. Creative work. This is one that when you think about podcasting, right? This is a creative endeavor of a kind. I have a couple of different podcasts. Every episode, I learn what works, what doesn't work. I try to do a little bit better the next time, what resonates with people and what never really took off with people. And when I started, I didn't get it right episode 1, and I still probably am not getting it entirely right because there is no right. I am iterating. I am constantly trying to make better thumbnails, better images, write better scripts, have better topics, and it's a process. So even in your creative work, you can also make it a process as well. So now let's talk about something practical, a repeatable process that you can live with. And here it is in 5 steps. First one, pick one thing. Be specific, not I want to be healthier, but something more specifically like I want to go to bed at a specific time, or I want to be less reactive in conversations. Something specific, and the more specific, the better your experiment will be. Step 2, design a small, time-bound experiment. Give it a constraint. I'm going to try this for 2 weeks, 10 days, 7 days, 5 days, whatever it takes. Make it small enough that you will know that you can actually get it done. And then ask yourself, what is the minimal viable action here? What's the smallest step of this experiment that I can test? That's your experiment. Maybe, again, you don't sit there and decide, I'm going to exercise a half hour every day, or I'm going to go on a 2-hour bike ride every day. Maybe I am just going to do 10 minutes of exercise every day. When I first started exercising, that's what I told myself, 10 minutes every day. That's all you have to worry about. And eventually it built into more. But I started with a 10-minute experiment every day for, I think it was 2 weeks. Step 3, run it, try it, collect honest feedback. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can just have a journal. You can have a habit tracker. You can have a document that you're typing in. You can talk to an honest friend that you have and get feedback from it. But the point is, just don't do it and vaguely wonder how it went. Have some sort of way to capture what's actually happening. Step 4, then review it. What worked? What didn't work? Why did it work? Why did it fall apart? Or why was it really successful? What actually about this thing did it produce for you that maybe you were hoping for it to produce? Was it the approach? Was it the timing? Was it the setup? Get really curious about what worked and what didn't work instead of getting judgmental. You're a scientist looking at data, not judging a verdict against your own life. Step 5, then adjust and iterate. Now you decide, do I double down on what has worked? Do I pivot to a new approach? Or do I take some of what I tried, that was the good part, abandon the other part, and, kind of incorporate it into something brand new? Or maybe I abandoned it altogether because this thing just didn't work, and I'm going to try something entirely new. All those 3 different paths are valid. The point you're trying to make is not a decision for your whole life. It's taking the information that you got and making decisions based on that information. So you're not just hoping, you actually have some tools now that can support you and your decision making and how you're going to live your life. A weekly review ritual, if you decide to do that on a weekly basis, doesn't have to be elaborate. Can be 10 minutes on a Sunday night. What did I try this week? What happened? How am I going to adjust it? And that's it. That's the whole ritual right there. Then you could add a minimal viable action. I come back to this all the time. What's the smallest version I can test? Because the answer is almost always more than double of the version that you've been imagining. You can actually do something very small that you didn't expect. Like I said, my friend, he was sitting there thinking about quitting his job so he could start a restaurant. And instead, I'm like, why don't you just go work at a restaurant during a busy Christmas holiday and see if you like it? You can make tests and experiments quite small, and you'll get a lot of information about them. The biggest thing next I want to talk about is what can actually derail this process, because there are some real ways that this can get derailed. Essentially, perfectionism. If you find yourself spending more time designing the perfect experiment than actually running it, that's perfectionism in disguise. The solution is to just go with it, as imperfect as it is, and just know that the next round you're going to iterate and make it a little bit better. Done genuinely is better than being perfect, because perfect plan never executes and it never actually produces perfect results. An imperfect attempt will actually give you data and then allow you to improve the system a lot more the next time. Then, if you have no clear feedback loop, then you don't know if this is working or you don't know how to adjust. This too is fixable. It doesn't need you to be sophisticated. A note on your phone that on your cell phone that you put at the end of the day, a simple habit tracker, an honest conversation, something. The experiment doesn't have to capture great amounts of data, but you have to capture at least what you learned in this particular round. Sometimes, too, people fear looking inconsistent. This is, I think, underrated by people who are making these kinds of plans. People don't want to iterate because they don't want to look like they're constantly changing directions. I know a lot of people saw that in my own life, that they'll think that I'm flaky or I'm not committed to a certain thing. But instead of me changing my mind, whether it's the thumbnails on my podcast or the direction I'm taking with my health and eating, it is about iteration and making small improvement. It's not about me being flaky. It's intelligent. to actually come with a plan that you can improve every time. People who are genuinely flaky are the ones who change directions without learning anything based on a mood or an impulse. Iteration is the opposite of that. You're updating based on real information that you got from the prior try. And that is the definition of good judgment. When something changes, when you get more information, you change your opinion, you change your tactic, and you do a little bit better. Some people have analysis paralysis. They overthink the review stage. We go around trying to extract the perfect lesson from the data, from what we just tried. And instead, just maybe give yourself a timer, a 20-minute timer to review what it is you tried, to see how it goes. And when the timer goes off, you make the call. What are you going to try next? The imperfect decision made with real information are always better than the perfect decision made after 6 weeks of noodling something over. Just give yourself a time limit. And here's what I hope that you take away from this conversation is that you're not behind and you don't need a perfect plan. You need small experiments and a willingness to learn from what happened. And that's it. The people who make real progress in their lives are not the ones who got it right the first time. They're the ones who keep adjusting, who keep treating setbacks as data, who stay curious about the gap between what they expected would happen and what actually did happen. And then, instead of just feeling bad about it, now they know a little bit more and they can do the next round better. You can do this. So just identify one thing, make it small, give it a time limit, and pay attention. How did it work? The next time adjust, do it again, and then see how it actually changed. Alrighty, one. I hope this really resonates with you who are trying to get your life to be a little bit better. I would love to hear from you. You can email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. You can put a comment right here if you're watching this on a video service. And I appreciate you being out there. Word of mouth is everything to an independent show like mine, and I appreciate it if you tell someone else about it. Thanks so much. I'll be back next week with another small step.